We are live. It is the Field of 68 After Dark, Sirius XM Channel 84. That is the ESPNU station. Rob Dauster, Randolph Childress, Jeff Goodman, who now has a Miller High Life, living the high life.
Living that life.
We're going to preview the Elite Eight games on Sunday here in just a bit. Before we do that, we got to talk about a coach who is probably drinking a couple High Lifes right now after some news broke. Memphis got their notice of allegations. There were 4 level 1 violations, 2 level 2 violations, and a 7th violation that was redacted. I'm not sure exactly what it was. It seems like the worst of it, Jeff, was stuff that Memphis did to try to cover their tracks in terms of the violations that were committed. Apparently, they turned in like a wiped hard drive. They turned in a phone that had text messages deleted. I'm assuming was that
cooperate.
Mike Miller?
Yeah, they didn't cooperate, and that's listen. That's the biggest issue, right? Bruce Pearl, back years ago, right, lied to the NCAA, and what happened? He got that show cause at Tennessee and got fired.
Mm-hmm.
Times have changed a little bit, certainly, but how badly are they going to hit Penny Hardaway here for not cooperating? And again, even when all this stuff came out years ago. They kind of, instead of just falling on the sword, they went the opposite approach. And to me, that's just going to piss off the NCAA at this point. So you wonder how hard they're going to get hit. But again, yeah, Mike Miller, Penny Hardaway, those are the 2 central figures right now on the staff. Mike Miller's an agent right now. He's not coaching. It's funny. I put it out there recently that I thought he would be somebody that, Florida should look at when the opening came up, but I didn't realize that the violations were so, you can't hire Mike Miller now, obviously. And the big question is like, how hard does Penny Hardaway get hit in this? Because this is different than USC or Auburn or even Sean Miller at Arizona or Kansas. This is a different deal. Again, when you don't cooperate, that's when the NCAA can just hit you with whatever the hell they want.
They're going to make an example out of them with that.
Yeah,
I think when you they're going to be upset about it, and people are going to bring in those other things and try to make those comparisons. Again, it's not a racial thing, but what you can't do is it's like throwing yourself to the mercy of the court or going to trial. They always tell you, hey, if we go to trial and we got to spend all this money, I'm going for the max.
Yeah.
And if you know anything, that's the best analogy I can give to you when you're dealing with the NCAA. If you just you come in and say, hey, this is what happens. This is what we did, and kind of beg for mercy, so to speak. But when you try to hide it and they find out, then like you said, the Bruce Pearl Tennessee situation is probably the more accurate description of it.
Yeah, the only thing I will say is this: we saw Oklahoma State bend over backwards to try to cooperate with the NCAA, right? Mike Boynton, I don't think he could have done anything else to be as cooperative as he possibly could have been. It's a new staff, new team, all that. The only violation that was ever confirmed was basically $300 being given to one player from a rogue assistant coach. And Oklahoma State got a 1-year postseason ban, and they found out literal days before the season was supposed to start. So why? Yeah, my counterpoint would be like, why would you do anything to help the NCAA when you help them and they're going to hammer you for really no good reason?
That one was just baffling, though. The Oklahoma State one makes no sense when you look at like USC and Andy Enfield and USC with an assistant coach going to jail and not getting anything. Like, I don't get that. I still, if I was Mike Boynton, if I was Oklahoma State, man, I'd be suing the shit out of the NCAA. Whatever I could. I don't get it. And I know you can't, but.
Jeff, you said that, but that was my point to all of that. I mean, we got to say, when we use that, we got to say the same thing with Book and Sean. Mm-hmm. I mean, Book goes to jail, and this man has felony on his record. He can't get a job at Amazon, and then Sean goes and he gets a job. And again, we like Sean, but he gets Xavier. It's nothing personal, but a guy went to jail.
Yeah.
And, Sean leaves Arizona, and then now he's right back in it, getting the head coach at Xavier, and Book is done.
Done.
And I don't understand. Like, those are the things that I'm talking. So when we talk about this, I know this Penny thing is just different because he was directly there. The Oklahoma State thing makes no sense because they, not everybody was even involved in that. this is directly linked to Penny, and he's got an answer for that. But my issue is those are some of the things that make people look at this and go, what are we doing? I've even said that about Rick. Rick leaves Arizona, and then he can go on and he goes to Iona. Fine.
Yeah.
But Kenny Johnson goes to LaSalle, and LaSalle is like, hey, we can't have, that stuff that happened there. We can't.
It's because they feel, again, those are the guys who they actually had proof doing the deed, right? Like the other one is, whatever you want to call it, what do they call it? The term? It's slipping my mind right now.
But the biggest thing you always say is lack of institutional control. Right, the coach, the rule is the coach takes responsibility no matter what. If you're the head coach, Jeff, and Rob and I running around here doing whatever the hell we want to do,
yep, it's on you.
You're supposed to fall on the sword anyway. Right. It doesn't matter. That's the rule. So that's my point in that. I don't understand. You can't say that. And then in those situations, it's like, all right, the rule don't apply to these guys. And then, but these assistants, and we're talking about a guy going to jail.
He never should have gone to jail. The fact that he went to jail for this entire thing was ridiculous. So, there was one actual.
But again, that's not NCAA. That's completely.
It's not.
Different.
It's not. But there was one. Different. There was one. But here's the thing: there was one actual criminal in this. It's a guy named Marty Blazer who embezzled $2.35 million from clients to make a horror movie with the guy from the Green Mile, with Misha Barton, and with Devin Sawa. Right? He made a horror movie with those three actors that completely bombed. It has like a 0.45 on Rotten Tomatoes. It's one of the worst movies ever made. He stole more than $2 million from clients in Pittsburgh to be able to do that. And what happened was when the SEC discovered that, they basically said, okay, what can you give us? And he said, I will give you college basketball. And you know what he did? He gave him Book Richardson. He gave him, I blanking on the name of the assistant from USC. He gave him Lamont Evans, Tony Bland, gave him Chuck Person.
It's like bullshit. Listen, it was all bullshit. None of them should have went to jail.
Crime.
We know that.
There was no crime committed. It was a bunch of people operating in this.
But we're not like
the NCAA created. But hold on, let me finish. The reason why the NCAA came down with the punishments as hard as they did is because of how bad this entire scandal looked for the sport.
Sure.
If this investigation doesn't happen and it's just Book Richardson giving $15,000 to whoever he gave it to, then you know what he gets? He gets a couple year show cause. He'll get back in at some point. Right?
They didn't care. The NCAA doesn't give a shit about Book Richardson or Tony Bland or Chuck Person or Lamont Evans. They don't give a shit about any of them, right? Now, the question is, do they give a shit about Penny Hardaway? That's going to be the question. Because if they don't, they'll hammer him too. If they care about Memphis, if they care about Penny Hardaway, then they won't be that tough on him.
And look,
but how do you care about? But let me ask you. But before you even move on with that, I get that you don't care about these assistants, but you care about their head coaches, because that's what you're saying. So you don't give a shit about these assistants, but you give a shit about their head coaches.
Well, I guess what I'm saying is they have the actual.
And I get
proof.
what you mean.
Right, I'm looking at it.
But they're throwing this rule out there, and I know I'm not. We're talking to you, but you're not defending this. It's just a matter of they're throwing this instant lack of institutional control. That the rule is in play, and you know this because we've been in this for so long. The rule is in play for back in the day when you got caught cheating. I would just say, "Hey Jeff, I'm gonna take this hit. You just make sure I'm good. So I'm not gonna mess up your $3 million. I'm gonna lose my job. You just make sure I get it." So this rule was put into place so I could just sit there and say, hey, I'll take the hit and be fired and be out of the business. Just make sure I get a job somewhere else, making money or whatever. I'm going to be good. I'm going to take the hit for the team.
Yeah.
That's what this rule is for. And so that's why I know we're talking about Penny, but that's the issue. Even this was with Penny. So if you're not going to essentially do nothing to these other coaches, then what are we doing this for?
Yeah, I mean, again, what they're doing is we're years later, we're removed from it all. So now I think if they had done this early on, there was more of an outrage at that point, and they felt like they had to hit so hard, which is what they did immediately with, oh, well, these guys are going to jail. They got to be done, right? We got to hit them hard so that they're done. And now it's almost like, all right, like, does anybody care anymore? And nobody should have cared then. I mean, this was stupid to begin with, but now it's almost like, you know what? It's 5 years removed. How hard do we get? Yeah, we hit I mean, again, we'll see.
That's the other problem. Like with this Penny thing is it happened 3 years ago. James Wiseman is already washed up in the NBA, right? He's already injured and not playing in the NBA. And we're going to talk about punishing these guys now. That's the biggest issue with the NCAA. You can't.
And they're all getting paid. Moment. Whatever Penny did for Wiseman is basically legal now anyway. I mean, Wiseman would have made 20 times more than whatever Penny gave him.
I will say this. If Memphis gets hammered because they were basically told, don't play this kid, and then they played that kid, and then they waved it in the NCAA's face, like, you kind of you walked into that one. You know what I mean? Like I think
stupid. Yeah, it's stupid.
Just stupid. It's just stupid. So like you could sit here and say he shouldn't have been suspended in the first place, but you also
bad advice.
You were told not to play him, and you did whatever you wanted. But listen, we're gonna take a quick break here. When we come back, I am going to tell you why North Carolina and Kansas are virtual locks to be in the Final Four.